She said she could feel her organs moving, not tingling, not warmth, movement, physical sensation in real time, while the higher self ran a body scan during a regression session. She wasn't visualizing anything. She wasn't interpreting a metaphor. Her body was responding to something happening in the session, and she could feel it happening. I've been in a lot of sessions where something unexpected came through. That one stopped me cold because the body doesn't wait for you to understand what's happening. It responds before your conscious mind catches up. And what it responds to isn't always what medicine is looking for. In another session, a different client, his higher self said it plainly. The contract with his ex-wife, built on commitment and faithfulness, she broke it. And because she broke it, he was free. Not healed, not forgiven, free. And the question that opened up in that room, the one that I haven't been able to close, is this. If the body was holding that contract, what just happened to the body in the moment it didn't have to anymore? If you've been carrying symptoms that don't respond to treatment, that seem to shift when your life shifts, that follow a logic that your doctors can't map, what I'm about to show you suggests those symptoms aren't random. They're not a malfunction. They're code running exactly as written. And some of it was written a long time ago. But before I can show you what happens when the code stops running, I need to show you what it looks like when it's been running for decades. Renee came out with a list of physical issues. The one that stayed with me, the bottom of her esophagus would close sporadically and she couldn't swallow. Not from disease in the conventional sense, from emotion that she hadn't processed, from things that she had been carrying since she was 5 years old and no one had ever said out loud. The organ wasn't malfunctioning. It was responding. Call it what the higher self kept calling it, a contract load. Instructions written at the level the conscious mind can't reach, running in the body the way an operating system runs beneath every application that you see. That alone would have been enough to make me pay attention. But Renee's session raised a question I couldn't answer yet. If the body is holding a contract load, what does it take to cancel it? The answer didn't come through philosophy. It came through a thyroid. Dana came in with a thyroid condition her doctors connected directly to mood instability, weight issues, and emotional dysregulation. Her higher self traced it to anger she'd never expressed, specifically anger toward people who hurt her. She was working to forgive before she'd ever let herself feel it. The connection wasn't vague. It was anatomical. The thyroid, that anger, that tissue. And before the session ended, the higher self made a specific, testable prediction about what would happen at her next doctor's appointment. Sandra had survived cancer twice. She'd also survived drowning in one lifetime, being burned alive in another, and a level of violence across multiple lives the higher self described as war. A literal, ongoing war her body had never been told was over. When I asked about her susceptibility to cancer going forward, the higher self said, all of that is done. Not managed, not reduced, done. The word matters. But Sandra's session still didn't show me the mechanism. The higher self doesn't speak in metaphor when it talks about the body. It names the organ. It names the emotion. It names the mechanism. A soul contract isn't a spiritual concept that just floats above your life. It's operational. It's something nervous system is actively running the way your body runs temperature regulation or wound response. You know the feeling. The bracing that never quite releases. The exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. The sense that some part of you is on duty even though nothing is happening. That low, persistent hum of vigilance without a source. The body holding tension in the tissue, never fully exhaling, keeping the system always primed. What the clinical literature calls chronic dysregulation, what these sessions keep calling accurate reporting. The body isn't confused. It's executing a contract load that it was never told to stop carrying. The real question isn't what's wrong with the body. The real question is, what does it look like when the instructions finally change? Marcus's session is where I watched this happen in real time. He came in with hypertension, breathing difficulty, and constant exhaustion. His higher self explained that he was fighting battles across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The exhaustion wasn't laziness or depression, it was the cost of active obligations on more than one front at once. The body was the invoice. Then we got to his ex-wife. His higher self confirmed what he had suspected. There had been a deep soul contract between them built on commitment and faithfulness. She broke it. His system had been trying to arbitrate that breach ever since. The moment the higher self said he was free from the contract and from any remaining karma attached to it, something shifted in the room. I'd been in enough sessions to feel when the energy changes. That one changed. But Marcus's shift was something I could only sense. I needed something I could report. And that's when I remembered what Renee had told me. When the higher self began Renee's body scan, what I now think of as the biological audit, the moment when the session turns from conversation to direct examination of what the body is actually carrying, she started crying. Not a feeling she assigned afterward. Not a memory she reinterpreted. A physical event right in the chair. And while it was happening, her body was responding to something the higher self was doing, and she could feel the movement, which meant the question that I'd been holding since Marcus's session had an answer. Body doesn't just record the contract load. It responds to the moment the contract closes. But I still didn't know how far that response could go. That's where Dana's prediction comes in. The higher self cut the cord between her thyroid and the unexpressed anger in her tissue, then gave her a specific instruction: write letters to every person she was holding anger toward and burn them. Not to forgive them, not yet, to move the charge out of the body before her forgiveness work could land properly. Then the higher self said something I wrote down word for word. The next visit to her doctor would show no issues with her thyroid and no need for medication. And let me be clear, I'm not telling you what happened at that following appointment. I'm telling you that's what the higher self stated directly with a named outcome and a timeline. I call what happens next the biological exhale. It's the moment the system registers below conscious thought that the threat is over, the obligation is discharged, the war is over. Here's what that actually looks like in the body. The held breath, the tight chest, the low hum of vigilance that doesn't have a source. That's not psychological, that's chemistry. The chain running from the brain's threat center down through the pituitary to the adrenal glands, what the clinical literature calls the HPA axis, has been holding the contract loading hormones and tissue. The clinical research on hypnosis and that same stress pathway shows something that stopped me when I read it. Those markers can shift measurably. Heart rate variability up, sympathetic arousal down, sometimes in a single session. Not months of recalibration. One signal delivered at the level where the instruction was first written, and the system starts to reorganize. If one session can shift markers that chronic stress takes years to build, the body wasn't dysregulated. It was waiting, which means the question isn't what broke. The question is, what was the body waiting to hear? The answer is the one that I didn't see coming the first time. Every physical symptom in these sessions, the closing esophagus, the thyroid, the hypertension, the organs described as a mess, none of it was a malfunction. The body wasn't breaking down. It was executing a contract load faithfully, like any well-designed system does. The problem wasn't the hardware. The problem was the signal the hardware was still receiving. Think about what Renee's esophagus was actually doing. And there it was in the body, literally, the tube that takes in nourishment, closing, blocking intake. That's not a disease expressing itself randomly. That's a system doing exactly what it was told, and in the most direct physical language available to it. Marcus's exhaustion worked the same way. The cost of maintaining simultaneously obligations across dimensions was showing up in his body because the body was the only place all of those threads converged. Every morning, he woke up already tired. Accurate data from a system under real load, not a symptom, a report. What medicine calls dysregulation, the higher self keeps calling it faithful service. The body isn't wrong. It's responding to an instruction given at the level the conscious mind can't access and can't override through willpower or effort. You can want to be well. You can do the work. Body will keep running the same code underneath all of it because no one told it that the situation changed. The research on chronic stress physiology describes the same architecture from the outside. You feel it as the low-grade fatigue without a cause, the sleep that doesn't restore, the sense your body is working harder than your life seems to require. Underneath that feeling, baseline cortisol sitting higher than it should, heart rate variability compressed, inflammatory markers drifting upward over years. The body allocating toward defense and away from repair, because that's the rational thing to do when the war isn't over. The biological exhale never happens. Now, the higher self doesn't use those words, but what these sessions consistently show is the same condition described from the inside. And when it dissolves a contract, what it's doing, whatever the mechanism, is sending the one signal nothing else could send. The agreement is complete. The obligation is discharged. You're not still in that. The body, which has been waiting for exactly that signal, responds. What changes in the session isn't the body. It's the instruction the body is running on. Her body was never the problem. It was always the most honest thing in the room. If your body has been sending you the same message for years, the same symptoms, the same patterns, the same resistance to everything that you've tried, there's a question worth sitting with. What contract load is it still carrying? And when was the last time anyone checked whether the agreement was still yours to hold? I didn't come into this work looking for a theory. I came to sit across from people who couldn't find what they needed anywhere else and to report accurately what happened when the higher self arrived. That's still what I'm doing. What keeps showing up session after session is a body that was never confused. It was informed. Given a contract load at some level we don't have clinical language for, and it followed those instructions with precision across years, sometimes lifetimes, waiting for someone to say, the agreement is finished. You could stop. The contracts aren't punishments. They're agreements the system honored past their expiration. The way a soldier keeps fighting a war no one told was over. The loyalty was never the problem. The information was. And the higher self dissolves a contract. The biological exhale happens in the room. Body doesn't require persuasion. It knows exactly what it's waiting for. Healing isn't guaranteed in this work, and I won't tell you it is. What's possible depends on the person, on what their own soul's plan allows, on what they came here to complete versus what they came here to carry for a while longer. Some contract loads dissolve in a single session, some don't. The higher self determines that, not me, and not the client's hope. What I can say is this: if you've been carrying symptoms that don't respond to treatment, that shift when your life shifts, that follow a logic your doctors can't have, there may be a signal that your body is waiting for that no prescription can send. That signal isn't medication, it isn't therapy, it isn't willpower. It's the moment your system is told at the level where the instruction was first written that whatever it's been holding, it's done now. You can let go. The link to learn more about booking a session with me is below. New episodes every week. I'll see you in the next room.